Welcome to
All
another
righty.
episode. God,
Yeah. Welcome to another episode. What
it was
what
a good one.
episode is this, Reese? I don't think you know. I don't know.
26? No,
I don't know. They're
I don't know.
stacking up. We're getting old.
They are stacking
But
up. We've got them lined up. This was a good one. Ryan Hanson. I love those Sustainable 9 guys. Good group. Good group for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, this is a good one. Ryan Hanson, the Sustainable Nine, as Reese mentioned, they're an elite builder up in Minneapolis. They build really cool stuff. They've done neighborhoods, custom specs, bunch of different stuff. Ryan runs finance and operations. We talked with him about building out a neighborhood. We talked with him about tariffs. We talked about cost plus. It was a good episode. So let's get into it. All right, we got Ryan on here today. Our favorite builder. I think I got to say favorite builder. We'll just alienate
Yeah, right.
him.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
awesome.
just go ahead. Ryan, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
Give us a little background on yourself, the company that you own,
Sure.
the market that you're in. Give the listeners a couple of quick takes.
Sure. Yep. I am my brother Chad and I, and one of our other business partners, Vince. We own Sustainable Line Design Build. My brother Chad and I started it a long time ago, but we really came into fruition in 2008, which was kind of a crazy time, if you can believe that. But actually, it was a really good time to kind of get started as being a true custom builder. But yes, we are a design build firm based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. We do stuff all over kind of our local metro area, a lot of stuff in the western metro area, but we are a luxury single family builder. We're a cost plus builder. We do some spec projects here and there, some like boutique multifamily stuff, but our bread and butter is really the cost plus, like, luxury high end. We also, the name of our company is Sustainable Nine. It's right in the name. We're very focused on sustainability, building house, very high performing but yet high design houses. And I think that's really kind of put us as one of the forefront of one of the top builders, I think, in town. And I think we're at least in the past 3, 4, 5 years, I think we're really getting recognized for that. We've got a team of 16 people, including myself. I run our finance operations and development. My brother Chad runs our sales and marketing. Vince was our head of construction. He kind of runs we have interior designers in-house and project managers in-house. He kind of runs that. But we really kind of all oversee kind of the general direction of the company. Obviously, my brother and I have always kind of been the big picture guys. We used to do everything back in the day. I mean, everything from, we didn't do project management, but we did all the interior design and everything. And that was kind of how we put ourselves on the map, just kind of believing in our design style. And I think it's really, made a big explosion, I think, in our local market back when we did that. Because we build a lot of modern kind of focused homes, and no one was really doing that in our market. And now there's been a lot of people that have started doing that. So in the past,
Yeah.
Totally.
probably 10 years. So, yep.
Where
Ryan,
does the nine come in on the Sustainable Nine?
Yeah. So the nine, way back when Chad and I were forming the company, we're like, just thinking of names. It's one of the hardest things. You would think you wouldn't think it would be, but we love sustainability, and we're like, well, we just can't be called sustainable builders. That's weird. And we found this book that had it was a consortium of architects, and they had come up with these 9 steps to sustainability. And we were kind of reading these things. We're like, this is everything that we kind of believe in, and we just said, what about Sustainable 9? It's got a good ring to it. It's easy to say, and I mean, one of the big things too, when we looked at it, we were looking for .com websites, right? And we're like, sustainable9.com, it's available, right? And so we looked at that and ran it by a lot of people. And we were like, hey, yeah, that's cool. It's got a really good ring to
It has a
it.
good ring to it. It really does.
It
Sounds
totally
like a
does, right?
SEAL Team 6, Sustainable
It
9.
does. It
I
does,
don't know
right?
what it is.
Yeah, and people will say that all the time. They're like, it's funny. We get that question that you just asked a lot. So we really refined those 9 steps and kind of 9 principles. Now we have them very prominent on our nice website we've got, and we've got a handout that we put at all of our home tours. This is the 9 tenets of sustainability that our company really lives by. And our whole team I mean, I've got such a fantastic team, people that have been with us for a long time, and I think that's one of the big reasons they're still here is because they look at that and they're like, hey, we live by this too, and but yet they're all about high design as well. So it's not, I think sustainability and even green building, I think sometimes gets a bad name because people think it's like, well, if I build a sustainably focused house, it's going to be kind of ugly looking or something, right? But we're just like, no, you can do all this stuff and you can still have a very cool and high end home, but yet, behind the walls, it's the highest performing house in your whole city.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've got a lot of people that have come to us just because of that. So yeah,
Yeah.
Sustainable
great.
9 runs deep.
It
Sustainable 9
does.
runs deep. It's a lifestyle. It's
It's
not
a
only
life.
company, it's a lifestyle.
It totally is a lifestyle. Yes, it's deep in our company culture. It's the best way to say it.
So
So
I
you
love it.
built
yes,
this neighborhood project you have on here, Peninsula Lake O'Dowd. You guys built the whole
yep,
neighborhood.
yep. We built other than one lot out there. So we basically built the first model home along with the original developer of the land, and then we bought that developer out and became the exclusive builder for 14 of the lots out there. And now we only have two more lots left out there. The lots are sold. We just haven't built on them yet, to the clients. But a crazy story on that, a very COVID focused story. We built this model and it was a very successful model. We probably got 20 new builds off of it, not all out there, but we bought the developer out, and it's a little, scary as a builder developer. You're taking a big risk there, right? I thought it was going to take 3 years to sell all the lots, and COVID hit, and I was just like, oh my gosh, now it's going to take 6 years to sell, and instead, all the lots sold in 6 weeks.
Yeah, because
Could
we were
believe
like,
that.
I want the lake house. I want the remote work. Yeah, that's
So
great.
it was like one of the craziest things that ever. And we had people coming from moving. They're like, I want to build my lake house out here, and I'm coming from Chicago, and I'm gonna get out of Chicago for a whole year, and build my dream lake house out here for $3.5–4 million. So yes, it
This
was
is
very successful. Yeah.
this is a cool topic. I mean, I don't see. So I feel like how rare is it to do something like this, where it's, we typically talk about custom builders and production builders, and often, typically a custom builder is building one house on one lot from what we see. Whereas
Yep.
here, you built a whole neighborhood, which, like, if you just say you built a whole neighborhood, people often associate that with production builder, but this is like a custom neighborhood. I'm
Yep.
looking at the
Yeah.
house. How common is that? Is that pretty unique?
I would say it is pretty unique. I mean, there's some local builders out there that'll buy create a 5–6 lot development, but we saw this piece of property, it's on a peninsula on this really beautiful lake, and it was all wooded, and we're just like, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so we just made it happen. We have some investors we work with too, and they were very happy. They're like, they saw the vision too. But I think you're seeing a little bit more of that. But the typical for like a luxury custom builder, they might go partner with a land developer, right? And that land developer might have 3 to 4 luxury builders in that development. At least that's how it works in our market. And that builder will do like, hey, I want to be in this development. I will build a model on one of your lots, and then I also will do a takedown schedule, basically, of what it is of selling those. I'll buy a certain amount of lots, every year, or maybe I buy one a year. Even if I haven't sold it, I'm on the hook to buy it, right?
Yep.
That's how these land developers. But then you also get maybe some exclusivity with, maybe it's only 2 other builders or maybe 3 other builders. This one was very unique, and then we put our butt on the line, right? And we're like, we're going to do this, and we're going to go get a loan for this, and we're going to, for any money we can't come up with, we're going to do that. But we knew we would have to pay interest payments and all that stuff. But it was a calculated risk because we are out of the 14 lots, we already had 3 or 4 reservations on these lots, and the developer was kind of like, hey, I'm going to go put this on the market, and I'm going to raise all the prices, and we were going to lose all those reservations. And we're just like, this is worth the risk, to take it and to
Yeah.
go for those 4, just for those 4 reservations that we already knew we were going to build for.
Yeah. This is a really cool project. Like, for anyone listening, if you go to their website, your website is sustainable9, the number 9.com. and then look at the Peninsula at Lake O'Dowd is what we're talking about, 14
Yep.
lakeshore lots. When you look at something like this, and you said it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, for you guys, is it more like, wow, this would be such a cool project to work on because we're just so passionate about the craft, once in a lifetime opportunity? Or do you look at it and say that this is a financial once in a lifetime opportunity when you originally identified it?
Honestly, I think it was a little bit of both, right? Because we had those 3, 4, 5 bird in hands, right? That were like, boy, this is a financial, like this could keep us busy for, the rest of this year and into next year. But then it's also where like this can be this iconic development where it is a sustainable 9 development. It's our style. It's our, we get to control. I mean, obviously the clients design their custom homes, but just the general design aesthetic we're going to control, right? Not to mention, I didn't even say this, of the 14 lots, 2 of those are private islands that there's a bridge that goes out to each of those private islands. They're like 6-acre private islands where you just can't find that, and
Yeah.
even in our market, if you were on Lake Minnetonka, which is a huge lake not too far from here, I mean, that would have been $10 million for a private island, and these lots were being sold for considerably cheaper just because it was in a different suburb, so, but when we did this development, we literally there had never been houses built this expensive in anywhere in that entire city, right? And
Yeah.
that part of it. And so we set the comps, and we had to work through a lot of stuff to get the original ones to appraise, but they did. But a lot of clients too, they pay cash too, right? So, and that helps a lot of different things. So, but yes, sorry, to answer your question, I would say it's a little bit of both, but probably more on the holy cow, this is something cool that we could have in our portfolio and show off our design aesthetic. It was maybe 60-40, but
Yeah.
but obviously when the build started rolling in and we got some really big ones out there, then it was like financially this has got, and it got us through COVID, right? I mean, it totally did, right? I mean, it could have been. The last thing you want to do is let a team member of yours go that you really want to keep, and it kept everybody there,
Yeah.
and now we've
That's
grown
awesome.
even since then. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
been great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a really cool project. Reese, you got any questions on that?
No, I mean, I'm just like, again, like if you're listening, I would certainly pull up the Hanson Bros website, sustainable9.com, because they've got some pretty incredible work. And like even just hearing the story on it is like pretty wild. You did mention cash though. A lot of cash
Yep.
clients on those jobs. You seem to like certainly have a perspective on cost plus. Let's talk a little about that. I mean, I met like, were these all like cost plus contracts, or were you like, how do you run that with cash buyers, finance buyers, cost plus? How does that work for you guys?
Yep. So we all of our projects are cost plus. We've been that way since the beginning. I mean, back in the early days, we pretty much did mostly spec homes because we didn't have a following yet, right? And those are just like it's fixed price to yourself, really. It's like you're like
Yeah.
whatever
Right.
you can build this for, and you do okay on some of them, you do really good on other ones. But when we started taking on clients, we looked at obviously a lot of the big people, big firms in town, and they were all cost plus. And anytime you're getting, at least price wise in our local market, you're getting above that $1 million mark. To me, it's just like there's so many variables that happen that to not do something cost plus it's dangerous as a builder because you could shoot yourself in the foot really fast if you're not doing the proper change orders, or if you're going, way over what the fixed price was originally, and the client's just like, I'm not going to do this. I don't have the money. And when you're signing a fixed price contract and you didn't sign any change orders, that could be between you making it and not making it, right? But yes, cost plus to us is how all of our contracts have been. I will talk. I was talking to the guys ahead of the call here. We had one project during COVID that we did, and we were trying to do it as one of more of a kind of pre-designed model that we have been doing some of those, but most of our stuff is all custom. This was still a plan that we were going to use, and we were going to reuse it over and over. And we're like, hey, let's just do this cost or fixed price. Let's try this, and we'll get this just really dialed in. And anything they want to do, we'll put it as change orders and stuff. And lo and behold, what happened is we got caught in the COVID rise in prices. Like, I'm talking lumber. I mean, it was everything. It was lumber, it was windows, it was appliances, not to mention the timeline of the project doubled because we were waiting 36 weeks for windows. And I mean, some of the appliances you had to wait 6 months for. So you'd have to put temporary appliances in. I mean, it was just nothing that you could have ever predicted, right? And it's just like, luckily we got out of that job and we still made some money, but not anywhere near what we should have made had it been a cost plus project. So yes.
Well,
go ahead.
Kind of dive in, because that's really how I view the cost plus fixed price model. We did a podcast earlier discussing like cost plus versus fixed price, and I feel like whatever side of the court you're on, you can argue it to the death as to why it's the best model. But really, like, when I look at cost plus builders, they really look at it through the lens of like mitigating risk on their end. But then you have a fixed price builder that comes in and they're going to say that they mitigate risk with, as you had mentioned, change orders, contracts, contingencies, all of that. If I'm like a fixed price builder listening to Ryan Hanson tell me how much risk like a cost plus model mitigates, what are the big areas? Like, why not just run a fixed price model with a bunch of contingencies and contracts and a bunch of change orders?
I think the biggest thing is it's just the fluctuation in pricing, but it's also a lot of times, and we love all of our clients we work with, but there's certain clients that make a ton of changes, and sometimes to track every single one of those things in the going through every different iteration of pricing, right? And it's just like, it's making sure, I always say it's protecting us, but it's also protecting the client, I think, in a way too. But because they're seeing the plumbing bill just like they do. They're seeing the HVAC bill, or they're seeing the tile bill just like us, right? We're not, our general contracting fee is very clear. It's right there. It's in the budget, and they're going down. They're seeing things down to the penny, right? And there's good and bad things with that, but at the same time, it's protecting us against any price fluctuations and just clients that might just get out of control with changes, right?
Yeah.
Right. But yes, it's also protecting the client too, so we're not going to come in with a change order and add a 60% margin on the back end to try to protect that, or make way more money than we would have made if we would have just been doing it as a cost plus project. So I think I answered your question there, but
totally.
Well, Ryan, so one of the things that I've I guess thought about is, it's like if you get into the business of being a builder, right, and you want to get compensated just for like delivering on the job of building something, right?
Yep.
Seems like you just get paid through your fee. So you like remove yourself from like the market risk that exists with building. Like, almost all builders have accepted this by the fact that they're not spec builders, they're not buying lots, right? Like, that's kind of a separate thing on its own. But then, so it's kind of interesting to me, right? Because a lot of people are like, spec building, that's risky, I don't want to do that. But if you think about a spectrum of like most risky, least risky, right? It'd be like most risky would be spec, least risky would be like just cost plus building, right? Because there's no market, just fluctuates and you just get your fee. And then somewhere in between is like fixed price, because on a fixed price job, maybe you're not taking the risk of the lot fluctuating, but you are taking the risk of the materials fluctuating. So one of the things that I find interesting is that while kind of builders seem to like put spec building off onto the side and something that's somewhat high risk and they don't really want to mess with, fixed price is actually pretty popular. I think it's more popular than cost plus. Do people just like not consider it to be that risky because historically materials haven't actually fluctuated that much? Or why do you think that is? That there's this like attitude of risk aversion with the land, but not necessarily the like hard construction costs as much?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's definitely, in the past when there was never any price fluctuation. I mean, there always was, but there wasn't as bad as like COVID or like we just found out today, these, tariffs, 25% tariffs to like Mexico and Canada, and now China, I think is at 20% or whatever it's at, or maybe even higher. But I mean, all those things, all of a sudden that can get you caught in kind of a spiral of like, hey, I can't change my contract. My price is my price. If the client is making a change, yes, I can put a change order in, but I think the difference too is you don't see as many fixed price builders in the higher end luxury market, right?
Mhm.
That's where you see a lot of the like our competition, who we're friends with a lot of these guys too. But if you're dealing at $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million plus, right? There are so many changes, and some of these homes are so detailed and stuff. It would be hard to even do something like that on a fixed price basis. And as a builder, estimate like, hey, I know pretty much like this is going to cost this, but there's so many variables when it comes to that it, you're just taking such a huge risk. I think where there is and you are totally right. There is many more fixed price builders than cost plus. I would say it's probably maybe 25 to 75%, 75% fixed price. But there's a lot of fixed price builders that are maybe building at the sub 1.5 million, at least in our market, right? I mean, I know it's all relative to each market, but in that area, right, they can get their prices, their costs really dialed in, right? And they have 20 plans or 30 plans they build from, and you can do little customizations here and there, but they may have built these things many times before. And so they know pretty much like, hey, I know what this is going to be. Even with I'm pricing in my price fluctuations, I should be able to be okay. Where when you're doing this high end luxury custom home, that's one of one usually, right? I mean,
Yep.
if it's 5, 6 to 10,000 square feet, I mean, there are things that you just don't know. And, you know, you don't know if the architect did something right, if the structural engineer screwed something up, or hey, you encountered bad soil issues or any one of those things, right? I mean, there's usually outs for some of that stuff in the contract, but it's a lot tougher conversation to have with the client, right? When you're fixed price and you're like, hey, I didn't see this coming and now I'm going to have to change it. They're going to be like, no, I signed it at that, right? Whereas
Yeah.
cost plus, it's like, hey, yeah, you still have to go have those tough conversations when things come in, but it's like the contract's very clear. It is cost plus, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
cost plus our fee, right?
Yep.
So,
So you had
and
said something in there about the tariffs like coming back, and then there should be like COVID. I think COVID, you're 75-25. I think COVID alone like pushed cost plus up quite a bit. We ran a
yeah,
survey, I think it was 2 years ago now, just on customers we were working with. I think it was like 40% cost plus or something like that at the time. And that was before we had a lot of our cost plus functionality, so it wouldn't have been skewed cost plus
sure,
at the time too. So I
yep.
think COVID pushed it up. I guess we got these tariffs now. I guess like would you expect that in a world where kind of people start to accept pricing fluctuate material prices fluctuating to be more the norm, that kind of people start to treat fixed price more and more similarly to how they treat specs, and a lot of the market moves to cost plus? Or what do you think your view would be there?
I would definitely see that. I mean, I think, you know, a fixed price builder can only get, whipped so many times, right? If you get, we feel like we just went through COVID. I know it was, what, 4 or 5 years ago, but it's like, now all of a sudden we're going to go through this, and it is a little bit of the Wild West, right? Hopefully it's not across the board, but you just never know. I mean, how long are these tariffs going to go on for? How much? It's just there is the wild card there, right? And I guarantee you, a lot of those fixed price builders, they're calling their lumber suppliers and everybody, anyone. I'm talking appliances, anything like that's going to be affected from China. Any those types of products, like, hey, how much do you have in reserves? Are you going to be able to last this out, or are you immediately raising prices? We just got from our cabinet, a couple of our cabinet suppliers. I already got like 3 or 4 different emails today about, like tariff increases. Here they're coming, and they are going to happen now, right? And So they're all just like, anything that's coming from Canada, right? And
Mhm.
Minnesota, where we're on the Canadian border, so a lot of our lumber comes from there. A lot of our window suppliers, some of them are up there, right? It's like, just think across the board. All of a sudden, you have $100,000 window order, and all of a sudden that went up by 25%.
Yeah.
On top of if Canada is going to do a retaliatory tariff of another 15%, I'm like, well, so you look at 30-40%, right? And you're like, okay, and if you've got everything all spec'd out, you're ready to order the windows, you might have to go to a totally different window supplier too, right? I mean, there's all sorts of things that can happen, and then that just delays everything or makes everything cost more. So yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
do you want to keep running on that thread, Matt? Because I have just a curiosity, like the cost plus fixed price difference.
I don't know if there's. I was just. I mean, I guess it's kind of the question. I think Ryan answered. Like, hey, people kind of seem to have gone through COVID, right? And a lot of people moved to cost plus, and then things quieted down a little bit. So maybe people are like, it's time to go back to fixed price. Things a little safer again. Let's go back to fixed price. But then now we're back
Okay,
with
but
some
that's like kind of where I
tariffs.
want to go. That's where I kind of want to go. Is like this fixed price is safer, right? Like this fixed price is safer. From my understanding, is
No,
like
not safer. I mean, like relatively safer. Like than COVID. COVID, it's like seems scary. Oh my God,
my
lumber's out of
understanding that
control.
like when
Yeah.
I'm talking to builders and they're in fixed price, there's obviously like an upside to it, right? The upside of running fixed price is you're not open book,
Yeah.
right? You ink a contract for $1 million home, let's call it, and whatever it costs, it costs. Your job as the builder is to get that thing as low as possible, obviously within reason. But that's kind of my question: is like, how much more upside is there in a fixed price model to justify the majority of people to flock in that direction? Because I mean, if you think about it, like a profit margin, like not your markup, but your margin, you should be clipping call it 8 to 12%.
Mhm.
That could be low. But like how much more is there? Or like are fixed price builders like truly walking out of these things with like 20%? Like what's your take on that?
There are definitely. I mean, I've talked to many cost plus builders and some of the different retreats and things that I've done, and some of them they're making those very high margins. They might be building, again, like I said, the 1.5 maybe 1.8 range, and they're getting some of those larger margins. But at the same time, there's also a psychology to it. I think a little bit too, where because when you're on the fixed price side, you're always like, hey, every other penny that I spend is coming out of my pocket, right? Versus, so it's like, I don't want to say that they cheapen things, but it's like there could be a tendency to do that, even if it's subconsciously, right? Where on a cost plus side, right, it's like, hey, I'm fine if we spend those the extra $5,000 because we're going to get our cost plus our fee on top of that, right? But it's also, we're doing what is in the best interest, I think, of the client. What we're doing that because we're helping them make, even if it costs more money, we're like, hey, this is the better route to go, right? Versus
Yeah.
I'm not leading them down to be like, okay, we're going to choose this, but I'm going to choose this because I know that my price is fixed for this, and I know if I spend more money out of my fluff account that I'm not going to make as much, right? If that
Do you,
makes sense. Yeah.
that is the. I guess this is the knock. So that's the knock. I guess on fixed price, you can cheapen things a little bit. The knock on cost plus is then like, the cost plus builders like the guy who's out to eat on a company trip. And he's like, just put it
Yeah.
on my tab. Just put it up. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I love the extra fries. Sure, why not?
I, I, I should say too, and we do all these exercises where we try to get the price down, right? I mean, every client has a budget, right? And I think we work very hard to get our clients down into the budget that they want to be at, right? It's almost like, and we're fine not making the fee on it, right? I would much rather have a very happy client than somebody that felt like they were strong armed into spending more money, like because they thought the builder wanted to make more fee. That is the last thing I want to do, right? But I think at the same time, it still allows us to make those recommendations to a client, right? Especially when it comes to like sustainability, right? We there's a lot of different things that we put in front of that are all options, right? They're options to the client. We're like, you can either do this or you don't have to. It's totally up to you. But by spending this extra money, let's just say it's on solar or on geothermal, right? If you're going to be in your house for a long time, it makes a lot of sense, right? Especially with the tax credits that are out there for that stuff. Who knows? Those tax credits might be going away. Who knows? I don't have a crystal ball, but currently it is, right? I mean, and by showing those things, and the client's like, okay, I know that this is the price, and I'm getting builder pricing on these things, right? Where if I went out as a retail client to go put geothermal or solar on my house, I probably wouldn't be getting the price that these guys are getting, which they wouldn't, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're getting that, and yes, it's gonna be more than what the original budget was if they're adding it later, and they're gonna get our cost plus fee on there. But at the same time, I think it makes them feel okay by doing that, and they know that it's a quality subcontractor or products and stuff that we're using.
Do you think? But do you? So that you guys are a reputable builder. You built a brand. You're not just going to be like lazy about cost because it's cost plus. But do you think just generally out in the market, there's a good amount of truth that like homeowners end up and could end up paying more because like the builder knows it's cost plus, so they're not going to be, they're not going to be as stringent with the subs. The subs probably know the project. The builder works on cost plus, so maybe they increase the price slightly because it's more likely to get through. Is that happening, or do you think this is like an overblown?
I think that at least from ourselves and the competitors that are in our market, I don't see that happening. I mean, could it be happening? Yes, it definitely could be. I could see some people being a little bit nefarious about how they're going about that, where they just don't care and they're like, whatever, the budget is way higher and you're just gonna have to pay it. Where, well, I mean, we still go out and we do a ton of bidding and reworking of the budget from the very beginning before we even sign a construction contract, right? So
Hmm.
we're getting it down to where the client is comfortable at, or sometimes they're adding things, and it's like we're going, and then we are sticking to that budget. We're making sure our subs, our vendors and stuff are sticking to those budgets as closely as possible, unless for some reason there's again a price increase or something like that. But all that
Yeah.
stuff is written into our contract too. Um, but yeah, I think there maybe is some cost plus builders out there that maybe night they might just take the highest bid, because it's like they're not taking the lowest bid of the three bids that they go get for like the plumbing work for some reason,
Yeah.
for all the plumbing fixtures, right? So, but we're usually, we're there the whole time, and we're there holding their hand through the whole process, and there's obviously got to be a big level of trust there, right? And that's what I think, at least our firm, and I think a lot of the other cost plus firms out there, especially in our market, they're very good at that. They're good at holding the client's hand, building that trust, and by doing that, they will trust you to build their house, and then they're just going to trust you so you don't screw them over, right?
Hmm.
That to me, that's the biggest part, and the transparency of being a cost plus builder, I think, definitely bodes well to that, right? And it's like the client sees like all of if a subcontractor screwed up on something or something is trying to charge it, they're going to see that just like we do, right?
Mhm.
And we do our best to mitigate that on any of the draws, or anything. But every once in a while, we'll miss something. The client will be like, "Hey, are you sure that that's right?" I mean, so they're looking at, there's some of these people are, they've done very well in life, and they are numbers people, and they're going to look at it, and we're like, "Hey, you know what? That's a good catch." And we go back and we'll go back and like go to the subcontractor and we're like, "Hey, why did you charge that?" And they might say like, "Oh, because this other sub did this." And we're like, "Okay, well that's a back charge to that other subcontractor." So then
Hmm.
we'll go work it out on the back and we'll take that out. And we're like, honestly, that's a great catch, and you know, and obviously we're making less fee on it then, but it's the most fair way to do things.
Yep. Yep. And in terms of working with your subs, I guess on this point of just like knowing, cost fluctuating, do you
Mm-hmm.
always get on cost plus? Are you always getting multiple bids, or do you now like kind of have trades you work with over and over who are great and exceptional?
Yep. I mean, I would say in the past 5 years, we've definitely expanded our sub base. So we're definitely getting multiple bids on every one of these, every line item pretty much, right? I mean, maybe not from our lumber supplier or things like that, because you only got one that you really work with. But on any like the trades, things like that, we definitely are. And, it's really to keep people honest, but it also, there's only so many, but if you have a lot of projects going on, some of those subs can't, you see their price fluctuate sometimes, right? And it's all like based on what they're doing at the time, right? If they're like they're like, holy cow, I'm looking for work, so I'm hungry. Obviously, they're going to give you a lower price. If they're like, oh, you know what, I got 4 jobs lined up after this, I'm just going to give them the I don't want to say it on air, but the middle finger price, like
Say it.
whatever, yeah, it's like. But yeah, but yes, to answer your question, we are definitely getting multiple bids, and I think it keeps everybody honest by doing that. And there's definitely subs that we use repeatedly, but there's multiple subs I think in each trade that we use repeatedly, right? And I mean that right there, I think keeps people really honest. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Reese, I know I've been talking for a while. You got some questions?
No, you're good. You're good. I think this is great. And I think I just keep kind of going back to this transparency. And I always try and look at this conversation with the fixed price cost plus, just because you do. I mean, you talk to so many guys that'll just like die in the trench of either or. I just think, I think every time I listen to cost plus, I liked your point earlier, Ryan, about yes, you insulate yourself as a builder, right? You're not getting locked into cost contracts or price contracts, and you have to like juggle cost and try and make it work. But then also you get this honor system with the customer. Not maybe honor system is the wrong word, but just that transparency of like they have that accountability happening right in front of them.
Right.
I'm just curious, even more on that thread to the comment that you'd made earlier about like a customer pulling the plug on, call it again, $1 million fixed price project, and this thing's creeping up to $1.25 million. Like, how do you even navigate that from a fixed price standpoint or a cost plus standpoint? Like, at what point does the cost or the price of the house just keep climbing to where they're like, I can't do this anymore?
Oh yeah. I mean, we fully have had clients before that have come in and for one reason or another, sometimes it's a job change, but I mean, occasionally it is the budget, right? They might come in and be like, they might have a huge laundry list of like, this is my dream home, but I want it for this price, right? And it's just like, I mean, that's the beauty of cost plus. I think is we just are like, we have worked this budget 10 days from Sunday, and we cannot get this down to your price. I mean, we just can't. It's just physically not possible, right? I mean, and it's like we obviously still have to make money as a company, but all these other subcontractors, you can only beat them up so many times, right? On a particular job. And I mean, we've had to do this before, and then we've had clients that just have, politely, I think, but they're just like, you know what, this just doesn't. We're not going to be able to do it for this price, And then they might go buy something existing. I mean, we've had people do that many times. Not many times, but we've had several of those. I'd say probably over the past 6 years. I think it's just having them. Obviously, it's heartbreaking when they do that because there's a lot of work that goes in up front. But we're collecting a fee during the design phase and stuff to make sure that our time is covered. But I would much rather have that painful type of conversation with them up front than have it at the end of the project, right? Where they might be like, well, we're not going to pay that, or we don't have the money to be able to pay that, right? I mean, that's a much tougher situation, right?
But doesn't that conversation happens a lot earlier, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, it happened. That's when
in a cost plus.
Oh yeah, it's happened. That conversation, we are having that conversation before we even sign the construction contract, right? So we're getting, that's the thing is the client might have bought a lot, or it potentially might be even a lot that we might own, right? Or have owned in the past, right? That we're trying to get them to buy. And I mean, they'll literally go through the design phase of the house. And by doing that, we're pricing the thing out, and we're like, this is your custom, one of a kind dream home, and you want it for this price. But during the design, we try to tell them so many times too during the design phase that it's like, that's going to be more money. That's going to be more money. That's going to be more. Yeah. I mean, you can only say that so many times to you blue in the face where they're like, well, we just want to see what it comes out at. We just want to see what the price is, right? And you do that, and then it still comes in where we told them it will probably come in at, and they're like, they're not shocked, but I think then sometimes they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, there are I would say 95% of people still go forward, right? No matter what really what the price is. But like there's other clients that just, they've, in the past, they've basically been like, you know what, this is just too much for us right now. Let's circle back and maybe come back in like 2 or 3 years, right? And maybe we might have more money then, or we might have, we still want, and some people hold on to their lot, right? They'll just hold on to it and just be like, hey, we're just going to wait until interest rates get better or whatever to be able to, afford what they want. Because a lot of them, they want that and they want what they told us they wanted. And so we designed it that way. And it's just getting them to, sign on the dotted line, I guess. But
let's throw. Oh,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's throw the tariff variable in there on like the pre-con side of cost plus. Like, how are you guys anticipating handling that conversation with prospective clients and setting those expectations around it? I mean, do you just come in and you're like, basically look at this and like anticipate 25% on top of this, that?
I think it's really on our end where we're going to, when we're bidding a house out, anything that's coming up that, is in design that we, maybe have done the preliminary like pricing on, and then we're going to kind of do our final pricing. We are going back to those vendors for sure and being like, hey, what if anything do we need to raise? We need to rebid this whole thing because tariffs have gone up, and we pretty much know all the industries and what's going to get affected. So we're definitely going back to those vendors and saying, hey, we need, if this price is not changing, or if it is changing, we need to know right now, because we need to tell the client that before they sign the contract. Because you can't come and, I don't want you to come and tell me 4 months down the line that it's going to be that much more money, right? And most of the vendors, they're, like I said, I'm getting these emails this morning, like they're anticipating this already, even though that it really on their end, they haven't felt it yet, but they know they're going to feel it, whether it's in 3 weeks or 3 months, right? They know they're going to feel it. So they're adjusting their pricing now, right? So, which is good, right? Because that protects them, it protects us, but it also is protecting us from having a very hard conversation with the client, right? Like we're like, oh, sorry, they increased their price 30% even after we accepted their original bid, like.
Right.
So,
well, would a PO help insulate on that?
Yeah,
cost
for sure.
Model with a PO in place, like on your larger scope, right? Like your lumber pack, your window pack, your HVAC, whatever it might be.
For sure. We currently don't use a PO system. We've talked about doing it. I definitely think that could definitely help with that. It would probably, obviously it kind of locks them more into a price, but there's outs that all those vendors have, especially some of the bigger ones, I feel like, so it's like but I mean, we have very good vendors too that do a great job about warning us ahead of times of those things. A lot of times you'll get a really nice but kind of firm email from them just saying, hey, just be prepared for this, because this is, I mean, you would not believe the ones we got during COVID, right? There was a lot of those ones where, but funny part is they didn't even, now it's like, at least we know the percentage, but in COVID, they were just, it was that, but it was also the lead times, right? I mean, they'd say like, no, we're totally fine. Our lead times are great, man. We're still at 14 weeks. And so we're planning, we plan on that. And then all of a sudden you start getting, I mean, it was like an email every 3 days. They're like, holy cow, we're sorry. No, this is now, it's gone to 20 weeks. Oh no, now it's gone to 28 weeks. And it's just like, we have promises that we've kept on our side, right, to people. And it's just like, but again, everybody was in the same boat with that. So it was just kind of like, I think in the very beginning, when that started happening, there was a lot of angry clients across the entire industry. But then people started seeing it in the news enough where they got used to it, right? Where they're like, okay, that's not their fault, right? It's not, I mean, it's not my fault that the port down in LA is, I mean, that no one's working and there aren't any containers coming, right? It's like, how is that my fault? I didn't cause COVID,
Right. Right. I've got one kind of like one-off question, but Dr. Dollar, do you have any other input you want to throw in here?
I like that name, Dr. Dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's old Dr. Dollar. That was a
Dr.
day
Dollar.
one.
I haven't heard that nickname for you yet, Matt. I love it.
Yeah. I forgot about that. We've forgotten our roots, Reese. We forgot Dr. Dollar
Right. We
and the
haven't drank
beers.
beers in a
Yeah,
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
we
haven't
don't even
drank
talk
beer in a
about
while.
beers anymore. We're
Yeah.
just drinking water out of big cups. Um,
Right. There you go.
one of the things I guess the last question I have on this topic of the cost plus versus fixed price is it's obviously just a matter of like who takes the risk, right? It's kind of like how the pricing model ends up working out, which is what Reese talked about earlier. Do you
Yep.
have any insight into commercial construction? Because in commercial construction, I think cost plus isn't super common, but that's kind of weird to me because the
Yep.
developers should be taking the risk, So I don't, why maybe
Yeah.
we shouldn't. But yeah, go ahead.
I do. I mean, I do have some exposure to commercial. We haven't done a lot through Sustainable Nine. We've done a little bit of it. Um, in the commercial world, a lot of times, yes, there's fixed price, but there's also a lot of what they call like cost. It's like, what is the name of it? It's cost. It's basically cost plus a capped fee,
Yeah,
right?
cost plus with a cap. Is that the most common one?
Yeah,
It's cost gross max price, the
yeah,
GMP. Yeah,
gross max price, right? So
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, it makes the client feel like, hey, this is great. You're not going to like completely, even if this goes way over budget, you're not going to cap your fee. Your fee is capped, right? Um, I should say too, we've done that on certain items on a house that we're building, right? Where the client's just like, hey, this came in really last minute, and there might be something on site that we didn't know about, they didn't know about, and we might just say, hey, we're not going to charge our fee on that. We're just going to, our project managers are already there. We're going to do this, and we're going to throw that one in for free, right? So that
Hmm.
you can have your pool, right, or your hot tub, or your built-in hot tub, or that big retaining wall, right? We're going to do that, and but so yes, so it's a cost plus a max fee basically is what it is on the commercial side, but we don't do that on the residential side, but certain items we've done that for, I think. But yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like that pricing structure for
Hmm.
construction in general. I mean, you just have these like layers of companies that are involved in a construction project that all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
I just feel like, money would move. Obviously, you need a good system in place, but I feel like payments and disputes and everything, if you just had like a kind of a cost plus structure up and down the chain from
Yeah.
developer to GC to specialty trade, maybe they have a subcontractor themselves and just feel like, yeah, hey, here's what my materials cost. Okay, cool. Here I installed it. This is my fee on top. This is your fee on top. And there's just transparency up the chain versus people trying to, I guess, take price risk in between
Yeah.
the layers.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I just feel like that's maybe the way that the industry can over time start to operate a lot more
Totally.
cleanly, efficiently.
I, it is funny. I have a friend that works in the commercial world. They they literally, I mean, it is it's what they show the client, right? I mean, they are fixed price, so they're fixed price, but they're like, it's crazy what they show the client. They'll show their GC fee, and on a huge project like that, their GC fee might only be like under 3 to 5%. It's really
Hmm.
small, but yeah, and then they're like the markup on the back end, or the hourly rates that they're billing these people out at, like from their team and all of the, they might have, all of their carpenters, they have all these people on staff, right? And the margin that they're making on that, it's astronomical, right? It's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
they're definitely a reason why some of those companies have massive, like, offices downtown, right? Like they're like super high end when you go in there and you're like, whoa, like they've made some serious money,
Yeah.
So, but I should say they do some of that like cost plus a max fee. They'll do some of that. I would say the majority of their stuff is fixed price. But yeah, no, they're doing huge projects like a science museum or you know, huge commercial projects, industrial stuff too. So
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, which is interesting to me because that project is like in custom building, I can see why it makes more sense for the builder to take the risk because they know more about the risk. They know more about what this should cost. They're the more knowledgeable party, right? It's like relative to the consumer who just wants a home built for themselves. In
Right.
commercial, these are literally professional investors, real estate developers. Like their
Yeah.
whole thing is like taking risk. So I find it
Totally.
interesting then that they're asking the GC to take the risk, or there's even this dynamic. I just wonder the history around that and how that evolved, especially when you add to that the fact that you said it earlier, these luxury custom builds are complicated. They're kind of hard to price out. Now imagine like a space museum or something, right? Like that's pretty difficult to price out. So yeah,
Honestly, the ones I think that are on the commercial side, I think that are, I mean, it would be hard for me even to start how to do it. Are these some of those like adaptive reuse projects, right? Where they're taking a building that was maybe built in 1915 and they're turning it into a high-end hotel or even a high-end apartment building, right? I mean, you don't know what the hell is behind those walls, right? You
totally.
don't,
Right.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could open it up and be like, this thing has so much asbestos in it. Like we didn't have, we only accounted for this much, and this is like, and it's just like, I mean, and with their projects too, you might as well add a couple more zeros behind it from even what our high-end luxury houses are, right? It's like a screw up there one way or the other, right? It's like, holy crap.
I remember this because I worked in hotel investing before this, like the private equity firm I worked at did like real estate, and we did a lot of hotel investing, and there was a boutique hotel where like the old behind the walls thing, like we didn't know, and it was like killed the returns. And I think it's kind of funny if you think about it. Like, look, we're literally on a call right now with like our faces being zapped across the country, and we're talking to each other live, but like we can't like drill into a wall and know whether there's asbestos back there. Take the walls off. Got to buy
like,
the whole building first.
It's like, gosh, it's like, why isn't there something this stage like with AI that can help you see behind the wall, or even with some, I don't know, that's got to be coming out, right? Pretty soon, right? You're right. I mean, like you said, who would have known we would have been talking to each other like this, all three of us, like on a call like this, and now we're going to broadcast this across the country and onto a little thing that sits in our pocket, right?
We're gonna get a billion downloads, and then there's gonna be tons of tariffs.
Tons of tariffs, the largest tariffs you've ever seen.
The largest.
Cool. All right. Well, this was a great discussion, Ryan. I'm glad you came on the podcast. We love working with you guys. It's fun to have you at the IBS beer crawl this year. Darts.
Yeah, we love you guys. We love Adaptive. Just keep improving it. We use it every single day. Our team absolutely loves it. I mean, it's been a huge.
Are you just saying that, Ryan?
No, I'm serious. It like literally. I mean, even Paul from our team, who's like the one that's hard to. He came out and now he just loves it. Right? He's just like, okay, this is great. It just helps the clients, I think, too. I mean, we've had no issues with clients after when we show them this. They're like, okay, I see my budget. Their draws are very organized. So yes, you guys have done a great job. So thanks, guys.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know. Whoa. Yep. I think this is going to be interesting just for the listener standpoint. And I say that, Ryan, just like really quickly.
Sure.
Whether somebody is like hell bent on fixed price or kind of curious back and forth, or you have someone that we run fixed on these, we run cost plus on those. Like, what's your quick case that you make to them to run cost plus on projects?
I guess it comes back to, again, just protecting yourself, but also being open to the client, right? And it's just the transparency. I think to me, it makes for a better process with the client. And on top of like, you're still protecting your margin on the back end, but it's especially if you have very detail oriented clients, being able to show them like, this is the actual bit. This is the same thing that I get. Even if I'm going to build a spec home, this is the same bit that I'm going to get. For them to see that, it's just like, they're like, okay, wow, I can trust this person, right? I mean, like, this is cool. And I think it builds a lot of trust, I think, where they don't know what, like, you're adding on their change order on the back end, right? It's just like, it is what it is, right? Yes. We literally were going to we still should do it in our office. We were going to make T-shirts that just says "It is what it is," right? And like, everyone's going to wear that.
That's cost plus. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what
But
it
you
is.
got the
Right?
receipt, so the client can be that.
Yeah.
This is completely maybe non sequitur, but actually related. The point of
Mhm.
like the client reviewing the receipts and
Yeah.
me earlier saying cost plus is kind of like going out to dinner on the company dime.
Yeah.
I remember, maybe just a way to end the episode of like, it is what it is, but like the client can still fight you on it. One of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
coworkers back when I was working at Morgan Stanley went out to lunch while we were on a trip and got 2 burritos from Chipotle. And
Yeah.
so it was like within like it was, it's Chipotle, it's not that expensive. So I think it was
Yeah.
like within the per diem for lunch, like the cost of 2 Chipotle burritos.
Yeah.
But I think there was like some sort of rule that you couldn't get 2 burritos for some reason. Like can't get double lunch.
I
And they
love
called him out on it and he lost his mind. Anyways, lost his mind. So the client can always come over the top, like, hey, you got 2 burritos. Who eats 2 burritos for lunch? We don't need 2 burritos.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. And we've had all of those very similar type conversations. They're just like, what is that $5.75 like receipt for from Home Depot, right? And you're just like, we're building you a $4 million house. It's but I get it. It's like that's the beauty of it, right?
Just imagine.
People can pick things apart, and
Just
it happens, and it's like you got to have answers for those things, right? So
yeah.
so
Just
yeah,
roll up the sleeves and review the receipts today. I'm gonna bust
totally.
some double burrito buyers.
Yep. That's why we
That's
love Adaptive, because it's like here's the transaction here, and if you want to go through every single one of them, you can, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Cool.
That's the name of the episode. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Cost plus.
You guys
with
should literally
Ryan
call
Hanson.
it that, because we say that very often.
Or CYA and love your customer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The cost plus.
I like that too. That's both of those.
All right, we've got decisions to make. Ryan,
All right.
love having you on. Appreciate the time and all the insight.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me. Good
Yep.
to see you.
All right.
We'll
Talk
see
to you soon.
Yeah.